What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Next Gen Pod. It's the Big Three, your host, Ani Amano, with Joe Tipton and Jamie Shaw of Rivals. Hey, guys, how's everything been? Jamie, I know you smiling, you happy. How's your weekend been?
Man, weekend was good. I was up in Connecticut for the National Prep Showcase. Great event always. Tons, 24 teams all over the country and stuff playing. And I've been able to watch college basketball, been able to talk about all this recruiting stuff and rankings and players. And it's basketball season, full bore. It was wonderful.
Joe, you seem like you're in a hotel, so
Yeah.
you're not at home. Where are you at?
No, I'm at Players there in Vegas. I got here Sunday night and then here for the games. Was there all day Monday and then all day today, Tuesday. But it's been good. Like I've never been like whenever I came to Vegas, it's for like, Pangos or something like that. So like it's at like Bishop Gorman. So like this is my first time like being on the strip and I don't gamble, so Vegas isn't like all that fun. I mean, I enjoy it like the social aspect of it, being able to watch games, right? But like it's also like I didn't realize how difficult it is to like maneuver. Like I'm staying at like Mandalay Bay and there's like a certain like you can't just like whenever you get dropped off in your Uber, like you can't go out that same door to get picked up on a new Uber. You got to like walk through the whole hotel, go through the casinos, all the cigarette smoke, all that crap to go on the other other side of it. I don't know. I got mixed feelings about Vegas, but like there's 8 ranked teams at Players Era. So it's like, how much can I complain that I'm able to see some like really high level basketball?
Joe,
At
I was
least,
really hoping that you got new marble walls there at your house.
oh no, this is a hotel.
Listen, Vegas ain't for everybody. At least there's high level basketball being played. For me, I can only do Vegas for 2 or 3 days. For people that
Yeah,
don't, they understand why, because I just be having too much of a fun time. But I could never live in Vegas. But I love
yeah, I
being.
don't blame you.
But the players era, the National Prep Showcase are topics we're gonna discuss in this episode. But at first, let's talk about the number one player in 2027, originally in Rivals, is now classing up to 226, and that's Bruce Branch, a prolific prep. He is now the number four ranked player on Rivals in 226. Joe, now that he's a senior, I know
Mhm.
there's schools and schools have been prepping for this, right? Like I've talked to a few schools that knew even when in October or September, even the talks were going on in June during NBA Top 100 camp that he may be doing this. But let's talk about his recruitment. What is that like now that he is a senior?
Yeah, this has been rumored for a while now. I think most people kind of expected him to make this move. So it doesn't really come to too much of a surprise here. He'll be eligible for the 2027 NBA draft. Obviously, you have to be 1 year removed. So kind of a lot of that is reasoning for reclassing up to 26. At least in regards to his recruitment, he hasn't taken any official visits at all yet. It's still relatively new. I don't think he'll make a decision anytime soon. I'm expecting to take quite a few visits and then, go through that process. But a few of the schools that are recruiting him to varying degrees would be BYU, USC, Louisville, Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, and then maybe some potentially some others. I think BYU has probably prioritized them the most. USC's in there deep as well. Obviously BYU has AJ DeBonsa this year, the year prior, Igor Demon. So that's kind of their pitch to Branch this year. And Jamie might be able to speak to this a little bit more. And Branch is like with BYU's pitch with Kevin Young being an NBA guy, putting Igor Demon into the lottery, I believe. AJ DeBonsa now being projected as potentially the number one overall pick, kind of following that. So there's an easy pitch. He's Branch is from Arizona as well, so he's a West Coast kid also. But he is something of note is he is an Adidas signed athlete. So you could see a school like Kansas, Louisville. They happen to jump into the mix with a lot of these players that are signed with Adidas, and Adidas helps them with the NIL aspect of their recruitment as well, factoring in obviously the collective rev share deals that schools can provide, but also the Adidas brand sponsorship also. So I don't think he's going to make a decision anytime soon, but I like BYU's chances. But I think, there's still time to play out. And a school like Duke, if they were to make a big push, I could see them being in the mix quickly as well.
Oh yeah, Duke. Our boy Carter. I know he excited to hear about that. Um, but but I know obviously there's a lot of schools in play. Obviously, he's going to make a decision late. Jamie, again, he's ranked fourth on Rivals. Why is that? Why is he ranked fourth? And just give a breakdown for people that are unfamiliar with Bruce Branch on his game.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of piggybacking a little bit off of Joe, on the recruiting side of things, checking in with a couple people once this happened. BYU was the school that I heard the most as well, but it was also tipped off by a couple people, as Joe mentioned as well, to watch Duke and kind of how they move in this recruitment too. So it's going to be interesting to see, no visits taken and all that, how things kind of play out in this late period for Bruce Branch. As for his ranking, Joe alluded to it as well. He's going to be eligible for the upcoming for the NBA draft along with the 2026 class. So he went ahead as the number one player in 2027, moved into 2026 to become eligible that year early. Where he slotted in at number 4 was because of the upside that he brings. He has a very interesting crossroads of skill set, positional size, and athletic makeup that he brings to the table. That's very intriguing for the long-term upside. As you know, at Rivals, we rank toward the NBA draft. So number 1, we want to go number 1, number 2, et cetera, and so forth. Talking with a lot of NBA people around, the recruitment and all that stuff, Bruce Branch has a lot of upside and has a lot of intrigue that he brings. His ability to shoot, his ability to create advantages off the bounce, his ability to toggle between multiple forward positions, both defensively and offensively within the flow of the game. There's just a lot of upside and intrigue there. Some questions as to why he's not quite a little bit higher is because he's never necessarily been the guy on a team yet. Looking at what he's doing right now at Prolific Prep, he's got guys like Nas Anderson alongside him. He's got guys like Caleb Holt alongside him. He's got guys like Davion Adkins alongside him. Looking at this past year, Perry High School playing alongside Koa Pete, and all that in AAU as well. So what does he look like as a top option? What does he look like as a number one guy? It's going to be very interesting to see as he continues to grow into his game and things continue to come together. But there is no denying the upside that he brings to the table, checking a lot of the boxes that they look at the highest levels of basketball.
Yeah, I really like Bruce. And being like the main character per se, like on a squad is interesting. And we've seen it in flashes, right? We see it where he can ride off 8, 10, 12 points in just like in a matter of a couple minutes, and defensively showing that he can switch or he can guard. I think there's a lot of upside with him. I think like his best basketball is obviously ahead. That's why, again, he's someone that's mentioned in the higher ups of the 227 draft. Joe, he's ranked fourth, and Jamie brought this up, but like I'll talk about his upside. Like where do you think he could end up being as a player when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I think with just how weak the 2026 class is, and therefore the 2027 NBA draft class is, Branch has the opportunity to be at the very top. Obviously, he still has a lot to prove and still has to develop, and he's going into his senior year, and he's 2 years away from being, in that NBA draft. Those deep conversations, but he's definitely has the upside and definitely has the ability to be, a top 3 pick, maybe even arguably the number 1 pick. Cause I think, Tyron Stokes is kind of the one everybody's watching, but like outside of him, who else is there really to challenge him outside of Branch, at least at this stage?
Yeah, and when you look at like Dylan Mingo, like who's a big PG, right? He was MVP of NBA Top 100 camp. We've seen his ability to get to his spots. His pull-up jumper has improved. I know the swinging skill is going to be the 3-point shooting, right, Jamie? Hopefully, I'm right on that.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, there's some interesting pieces. Bryson Howard is ranked number 3 in the rankings. He's someone that's to me like he's shown what he can be as an alpha. It's going to be interesting to see what he becomes in college because he does have a chance, to be a higher end NBA draft pick. But I just really like Bruce Branch to me. When you just kind of look at when you do the intel on the kid, and then you look at his game and how it's grown, he looks like someone that is built to be a potential number 1 overall draft pick. Obviously, there's going to be overseas guys. There may be a sophomore in college that's really stepped up. But Jamie, what is your thoughts? I know it's 227, it's early, but like, does he have a chance? Does Bruce have a chance to be the number 1 overall pick?
I think watching closely this year, developing how he kind of develops the consistency. We all three were out at Border League this past year. We saw a huge, maybe 32-point performance that he brought on the first day,
Mhm.
following up the second day with a 6-point performance. He goes and knocks down, four of 8 from three, with 3 of those shots being air balls and 4 of them being nothing but net. So just finding that consistency within the flow of what he brings to the table, his ability to create the offense by himself, self-creation, getting to his spots, finding the balance points, and getting the fluid motions within his shot and his performances, I think is going to be the next step as to what we see this year. And that was kind of a little bit what I was alluding to when it comes to being the number one option. When he's at the top of the scouting report, when everybody knows what his go-tos are, what do his counters look like? Is he still able to get to the footwork, get to the spot, get to the spaces in the floor where he's most advantageous for his team? That's going to be very interesting to continue to watch with him. But as we know, at the highest levels of basketball, kind of the forward position is incredibly valuable. And there's so many different pathways you could take. You could be a two-way, you could be a self-creating forward, you could be a stretch forward. There's so many different pathways you could take with his 6'7" long-armed frame. The margins are wider when it comes to his progression and what the top end outcome looks like with that. So with that, the value of what he brings, the positional size, the fluidity advantages he creates, the upside is high. Now he needs to put it together, bring the consistency to what he brings to the court, and kind of more identify what he's going to be as he continues to move forward as a player.
So then my my next question is, Joe, Jamie, y'all talked about the schools that are showing a lot of interest. Is there out of those schools, is there some that you're like, okay, they could probably get that consistency out of him? There's some coaches or play styles that probably fit him best or maybe fit him fairly good. Or there's some schools in mind when you talk about what he needs to work on, what his skill set is. Is there any schools that come in mind that you feel like he could fit really good at?
I think all of them. I think all of the schools that Joe mentioned in this recruitment process are high level. They've all had guys. When you talk about BYU with Yegor Damon and what they have with AJ this year, when you have Duke, what they have in their past, when you have Arizona, Tommy Lloyd, what he's done at then you have Kansas and Louisville. All the schools that were mentioned have had guys. They have systems and they have stuff in place to be high level programs. They're all also top 25 ranked teams and all that stuff, and coaches that have pedigree and long-standing nature of what they do. So, of the schools that are being mentioned here, there's not really a wrong pathway, in my opinion, to be able to take when it comes to development, when it comes to system and play style.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of one of those things. Like the schools recruiting him, they make all the sense in the world. Like it makes sense for Bruce to consider them, but then also for the schools to also recruit Bruce. So a lot of the time we see, you know, certain high level players, like you just wonder, like, why would they be going after this kid? Like it doesn't make sense. They're like super far from home. Like you're one of the worst teams in your league, but you got money or something like that. But with Branch, it's like all the schools that are recruiting him and after him, you could see him potentially going to any of them. And then you could also see the fit right away with players that they've had in the past. So there's a lot of it just adds up, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Bruce Branch, the number 4 ranked player in 226. He was the number 1 ranked player in 227. He's classed up, high level prospect. For the viewers that had not seen him play, he's definitely must watch. Especially now that he only has 1 more year of high school left. Next time you see him, he's going to be on TV. Let's go into the next. Let's go into the next topic. The National Prep Showcase. Jamie, you were there. You drove down. The Massachusetts, correct?
Connecticut. New Haven,
Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Yeah, you drove down to Connecticut. Quinn Costello, Anthony Thompson, some really high level players, some 5-star guys were there. So just kind of talk about what you've been hearing in the crowd and how they played out there.
Yeah, so opening up, obviously, I don't want to go too deep into this. 24 teams came from all over the country and everything. But 2 guys that really kind of stood out that you mentioned, Quinn Costello and Anthony Thompson. We'll start with Quinn Costello. He's somebody that's been on the rise. Rivals, previously on 3, has had him in the rankings for a couple of years now. This summer, we saw him jump all the way to number 33. Now, obviously, Rivals is a little bit ahead of the industry when it comes to where he's at 33. But he's really playing into and growing into his game at 6'10". He's committed to Michigan already. 6'10", and he's a fluid athlete. He showed actually explosive pop during this event, getting up and above the rim. He had one play where he caught the ball at the free throw line, reverse pivot downhill, got up and dunked it for an and one in traffic. It was a very intriguing play. But what he's long time been, why he was in the rankings to begin with, 6'10", the shooting. He's a floor spacer. He had 5 threes on the first night on Saturday, knocking them down in his 36-point performance. He's adding toughness. He's adding physicality. He's adding footwork to his game. Again, looking at the longest levels, the highest levels of the basketball game, how do you create advantages? How are you uniquely bringing fluid stuff to the game of basketball? With Quinn Costello at 6'10", his fluid athleticism and his ability to find his offense while showing some physicality and toughness is incredibly unique. Very excited to see kind of how his season continues to grow and progress. 33 might not be the top end of what his ceiling is with what he brings to the floor. Ani, what are your thoughts about Quinn, and kind of what have you seen from Quinn as a prospect?
I'm a big fan of Quinn. The first time I watched him was the first session of Under Armour. That was in April. With the Middlesex Magic, and I just saw a 6'10" kid make like 6 threes that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, at the end of the day, when we look at college basketball, we look at, prospects even further, further along, even after college, being 6'10", being able to shoot, and he moves well. That was super impressive. And then I think you just bank on that. So like you guys having him at 33 is perfect. Like I was super high on him. I was like, okay, 6'10", can shoot and moves well. Even though he at that time he wasn't the toughest of players, right? And I think that's kind of why he kind of raised up. Like you had him in the rankings, but then when y'all saw a certain level of like toughness and more of a versatility instead of just being a spot up threat, it made more sense. And I just think with Quinn, he has a ton of upside. He's obviously a late bloomer. And then it's good to hear that, like, he's attacking closeouts, getting to the rim, doing straight line drives, and, showing more vertical pop. I think just the overall toughness, and I think just more like experience of playing high level talent, right? Like, I think Quinn, and being in a bigger role, I think this year is going to be important for him. I think college, obviously, there's going to be a learning curve, but I think he's someone that could be a big time piece for Michigan. So, big fan of Quinn. When I first saw him in April, I was like, okay, let me not overthink this. When you check those boxes and you can really shoot the basketball and you're that size, it generally pans out. Unless you're just a complete knucklehead, as we all know, that could be the reason that he fails.
And I don't think he is. Like his dad's a professor at Harvard. Like he's going to Michigan. Like academics are important. Like he was being recruited by like almost all Ivy Leagues before he got high major recruitment. Like he was going to go to an Ivy League school before he blew up. So that's the guy you bet on.
Yeah, exactly. Like character boxes check, everything checks off. So I think like Quinn's a win. Michigan got a really good addition. But Joe, I would talk about Quinn Costello to you. What's your eval on him, and what's your overall thoughts? When as he goes to Michigan, what his college career can look like.
Yeah, I really like him, like his upside as a player, like the stretch forward, like the upside of what he can be in the future. I do think, you would like to see, I agree with you, like you would like to see a little bit of toughness from him, but he's a high IQ player. Pretty reliable from the 3-point line. And just with his size. How tall is DJ? Is he 6'10"?
Yeah, 6'10".
Yeah, 6'10". I mean, Michigan, great fit for him. Super high level program. They're always, winning at a high level. Obviously, they're going to lose Yaxel Lindenborg and potentially a Demara next year. So the front court could open up a bit more for him. But really like what he can be. Maybe not a surefire one and done guy, but maybe a 2 and done guy. So. But really like Quinn and really like the fit at Michigan specifically.
And I think a big thing coming on with Quinn is what he's showing is he's coming into his own confidence. It takes big guys a little bit. Big guys can be a little goofy when they're younger. It takes them a little bit of time to grow into their confidence, grow into their bodies and frames, and just being a human being. I think you're seeing with Quinn, he's really, really starting to come into his own confidence. Grabbing the ball, ripping through, playing with authority. Playing with a little bit of authority, pushing the break, getting downhill, and doing all that. And I think there's still some upside to go here. And he was awesome, as I said, 36 points on Saturday, and on Sunday he followed up with 15 and 11 with a couple block shots as well. So very intrigued by what Costello brought. And then Anthony Thompson was another one. He's one, again, a late bloomer. He's always been a spot shooter, known as the spot shooter, a guy who can stretch the floor, 6'7", 6'8", 7-foot wingspan with soft touch. What he showed this past weekend, what he showed a little bit during Adidas, going into the October mini camp for USA basketball, and then again this weekend, is that he's turning into a scorer. He's somebody who's able to get downhill to the basket and finish plays at the rim while he's still shooting the jump shot, while he's still getting into the 1-2 dribble pull-ups and all that stuff. He's also getting to the free throw line 7-8 times in a game, getting downhill, seeing a couple go through, and that just expands his scoring range. He's somebody, again, at Rivals previously on three in the rankings that we had a little bit higher than the rest. Now all of a sudden it seems the industry's caught up a little bit to where we're at with him at number 8 overall in the rankings, but the upside is so high with what he brings. Again, we talked about it previously with Bruce. He's the 6'7", 6'8" forward who can create advantages at multiple levels of the court in the half-court offense. He's also grabbing rebounds. He had 11 rebounds in the first game, 15 rebounds in the second game in this. So expanding his scoring range, growing into his frame, and then showcasing the toughness and ability to rebound the basketball and do all that stuff. It still seems that Anthony Thompson's on an upward slide as he grows into what he is as a long-term prospect, checking a lot of those boxes again that we always talk about at the highest levels of basketball.
What is your player comp for Anthony Thompson? Do you have one?
Oh man, player comps are so tough because nothing's ever 1-to-1, and you say a name and everybody jumps on something because normally when you have a player comp, it's because there's one specific part of a player's game that sticks out to you that reminds you of. Other people might not see that, and they might jump in and say, "Oh, it's terrible because they don't do this, this, and this." But it's so yeah. No, I don't necessarily have a player comp for him. Gosh, just off the top of my head, I mean the Ohio State thing, left-handed shooter. There's some Michael Redd stuff possibly in there, non-1-to-1 type situation when it comes to the shooting. He's a very intriguing player when it comes to what he's able to bring with his size and length and scoring ability.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Anthony Thompson. It's funny when I saw that he committed to Ohio State, I'm thinking like a little bit Michael Redd as well because I got to see him I got to see him a couple times, but I remember this Adidas session when they were in Bryan, Texas, and obviously I knew he was more of like a spot up threat, right? But then I saw some stuff like grab and going. He's really kind of not necessarily just completely initiating offense, but he's just using his field to kind of have the ball on the top of the key, being more of a hub, and then shooting, then attacking these closeouts, and then playing with toughness. Like he's disciplined. He's boxing out. He has a nose for the ball. He knows how to rebound out of his area. And so when you're talking about those 12 and 15 rebound performances, I got to see that in Brian. Just he didn't have like a high rebound like outing, but like he's getting balls that he's just tracking before everyone else does. So he just his feel for the game, his IQ, there's not only his skill set as a shooter, but being able to put the ball on the floor. He's not a great athlete, but he doesn't need to because he knows how to use his body to generate enough space to finish as well. So definitely like a later bloomer guy, but someone that I felt like chose a really good school for him that fits and a league that fits. But he's also just getting better and better and showing more of a versatility with his scoring and just with his production on the court. Joe, talk about your Anthony Thompson evaluation. What do you see from him, and what areas of growth do you think he needs when he gets into college?
Yeah, I think y'all did a great job on the eval, kind of break it down. I think y'all hit the nail on the head. I remember watching him at Rock Hill this past summer at Adidas, and he started the game off. He was kind of just going through the motions. Like I wanted to like see him just be a little bit gritty, play harder, like just be a little bit more bought in. And there was a point in the game. I can't remember if it was like halfway through the first half, but he just turned it on. Like when he turned it on, it was like wow. And he had like over 30 that game. Like he showed like I would like for him to see that to be a little bit more consistent throughout the game, like for him to be a little bit maybe more of a vocal leader. But like he showed a grittiness that side to him during that game that I watched, and I was like, okay, this is what I like to see because he's kind of this shy kid off the court, just kind of like to himself, very respectful, very professional, right? But like for him to have that like dog mentality. Like when he was able to flip that switch on the court, that's what I was like, okay, this could be like a game changing type of thing for him.
What's interesting is we talked about Bruce Branch and then Jamie, you talked about consistency, and we all agree on that. And Anthony Thompson, I think consistency as well. Quinn, we're starting to see him be a little bit more consistent. Why is it that a consistency is kind of a theme, especially with this class, or really just with high school kids? Why do you think a consistency it's just so hard to kind of get them to understand right now?
Well, it's kind of one of those things that these are still 16, 17, 18-year-old young men that we're talking about. They're still growing into their frames and their bodies. They're still learning new roles. When it comes to Bruce Branch, he was, again, with Koa Pete this past year, running multiple state championships, and he's stepping into his role as the number one player overall. You have guys like Anthony Thompson and Quinn Costello who, late bloomers physically. There's just so many different avenues and areas for young men to grow into and for them to find their confidence and their skill set and their games, and adding a little bit of athleticism to it as well. And now all of a sudden the belief, I am that guy. They tell me I'm that guy. They tell me that I have a bright future. Now I believe that I am that guy, and I'm going to go out and show these people I am that guy. People grow into that mold at various times and stuff, and I think we're starting to see that this class, guys are starting to grow into that.
Yeah, I do think it's one of those things where when you're told at such a young age, like, hey, you're already a pro, hey, you're this 5-star recruit, hey, you're this top 10 prospect, like you've already got it made, like you're going to be a lottery pick. This isn't for any particular player that we've been talking about today so far, but just in general, there is some sort, like, complacency can kick in to some degree with a lot of these kids. You know what I mean? They're being told from people around them that they can just kind of just put it on cruise control, and that's not the case. So when you see players like, for example, like, we don't have to talk about consistency with a kid like Jordan Smith Jr. Now, he may not have the highest upside in the world, but you know exactly what you're going to expect from him every time he steps on the court. I mean, his motor is on go regardless. Like, so a kid like that, you never have to question. Like, okay, you can question his shooting consistency, but like that's just because he's still working on his shot. But just overall effort, like that for me, like effort is like a non-negotiable. And I know that's kind of not exactly what we're talking about here. It's not 1-to-1, but just in general, like if you can do that one thing, it can clear up a lot of areas of mistakes.
I agree with you. I think the consistency to me, I always look at just the motor, just the once the motor gets going, even if you're not making shots, is you're able to do other things on the court. I also do think, like Jamie kind of touched on this, is the changing of roles, right? Like them knowing they're that guy. Like when you go from, okay, I'm going to be like this third, fourth option, I'm playing this piece now, I got to be the guy. There's a difference in mentality that you got to have, and then obviously, if like kids are they're growing now, they're stronger, they're getting adjusted to being stronger, to being taller, to having to being the main point of like a scouting report and stuff like that. So I think that's where the consistency still lies. Like, okay, I know I probably have to, instead of shooting like 5 to 8 shots a game, now I got to shoot 15 to 18 to win or something like that, and still play hard, still rebound, still do the little things, still, and also lead as well. So I think the changing of roles is always kind of the toughest thing, because when you're kind of more of a complementary piece and you're like, okay, I can just kind of blend in, that's cool. But when you have to now you go from that to, hey, you are the guy, I do think mentally there's a change. You got to realize, okay, like I am that guy, but just because I'm required more of an offensive load, I still got to do the other things. And I think that's just a change of roles and a change of mentality that has to have. And like you said, Jamie, teenagers, it takes time. When they get to college, it's still gonna take time for them to adjust to being a role guy there, or maybe some of them are taking a bigger role there. It still takes time. There's a learning curve. I think that's ultimately just kind of what this is. Um, Joe, you're at the players era. We've been watching. It's been some high level games. It's been fun to watch. Let's get into our storylines. Which one of y'all want to start first? What is a storyline from the players era? We can start with Joe.
Okay, so here's where I start. So mine's probably a little bit different than y'all's, but I see like there's so many haters about players there. For what is it? Because there's not the crowds, like whatever it is. Like maybe I have a different, like probably have a better view because I'm here and I'm like there in the gym. But people are like even I like maybe misworded a tweet like, awesome crowd at this like Alabama Gonzaga game, and there's like obviously like plenty of open seats. But by that I really meant those fan bases were really engaged, and the view of the shot of the camera angle, it showed where the people weren't sitting, but there was plenty on the sides where the camera was not showing. So just to clear that up. But overall, like, we can't complain about players era when we have 8 of the top 25 teams playing, and there's some really good matchups. Like we got Houston, Tennessee today. We had Alabama, Gonzaga yesterday, plenty of other top ranked teams. So I think it's one of those things like people could say what they want, but like it's Thanksgiving week. It's an MTE for crying out loud. Like all in all, like now I walked into Rutgers in Tennessee yesterday morning. And I was like, if this is how it's going to be all week, this is not going to be good because there was nobody there. Now it was Tennessee and Rutgers, and it was a 35-point blowout, right? But like for the Iowa State St. John's game, really good. Even like Creighton Baylor, like Creighton's fans, like Baylor didn't have many people there, but like Creighton's fans like traveled really well. Alabama Gonzaga was really good as well. So I think overall, like it's one of those things. Like I understand like people have opinions about it, but I've actually enjoyed the matchups. I think there's like a lot of high level teams here, and every participating team gets $1 million for NIL. So like, who wouldn't want to be a part of it? You know.
Looking through what it is, we all know the money of these events comes from sponsorships, comes from TV money and sponsorships and all that stuff. Looking at what it is, the gate money, the being at the door, the atmosphere and everything, you know what it is kind of you're getting into when it comes to these MTEs. But Joe, just like you said, man, I mean, like you're looking at the teams that are here. You've mentioned 8 top 25 teams. Just that game last night, look at what Alabama and Gonzaga is going to do. I mean, Gonzaga might be one of the more underrated teams out there in the country. And Alabama, we all know what Nate Oates done with them, with their tournament advancement, and the style of play that they play, and all that stuff. And then all throughout the entire day, you have it going there. So when it comes to the atmosphere, when it comes to all that type of stuff, anytime that you have a game that's not on a home court,
Yeah.
it's an up in the air as to where the atmosphere is. The money is going to come from obviously the sponsorships and what it brings and people tuning in. People are going to tune in to teams that are good and games that are good. And we're obviously seeing yesterday coming into the day and into as the tournament goes on, these are going to be some really, really good games to watch and a lot of fun. How have kind of the games been, and how's kind of have people traveled and stuff? How all that type of stuff for the event so far?
Yeah, it's like select fan bases. So, like I said, like Creighton had a really good crowd. Baylor didn't as much. Like Rutgers and Tennessee, I mean, it was like 15% full. I mean, it was also a blowout. But like Houston and Syracuse, like that was a bit underrated. Like it once again, like none of them have been sellouts. Like I didn't expect any of them to be
No.
sellouts just for all the reasons we named. But like when Tyler Betsy hits that three for Syracuse, send it into overtime with Houston, like that felt like a real like no not that these aren't real games, but it didn't feel like an MTE game. You know what I mean? Like the excitement from the crowd when Syracuse goes to overtime with Houston. But overall, like I didn't stay for Maryland UNLV. It tipped at like 9 Pacific, like midnight Eastern. So like I didn't stay for that one. But like all in all, I think it's like a pretty standard like MTE type of turnout. But I just keep coming back to all of the high quality teams that are here. Like you look at some of the other MTEs, their fields are starting to slip. Like everybody wants to be a part of this. Like Louisville is joining next year, Florida is joining next year. Like more and more of these top teams are wanting to participate because of the NIL. Because I think if you make the top four, you get like an extra 1,800,000. I think they're gonna eventually have to split that up because Jeff Goodman, our friend, reported yesterday that they're expanding the field to 32 teams next year, and it's going to be over 3 weeks. They're going to like break it up, like 8 teams this week or like 16 teams this week. I don't know how that'll work. I'm not going to stay in Vegas for 3 weeks. And Ani, I would recommend that you not come to Vegas for 3 weeks.
I won't be alive.
But I think all in all, just like the level of teams competing in it, that's the most fun about it, and the matchups specifically.
Well, and what an innovative thing it is too, because last year, Dan Hurley out at Maui came on and kind of ripped MTEs, going 3 games in 3 days and taking 3 losses and doing all that type of stuff. Well, here comes the players there ushering in not only the innovative way of the way that they're formatting and structuring the tournament, but also leaning into the NIL world. Now all of a sudden everybody's talking about NIL. We need more of this. We need more of this. No, well, here's an MTE, a tournament in a desirable place. People like to go to Vegas. People want to go to Vegas, and it's a desirable location. Leaning into, hey, we're going to give you $1 million for your NIL to come play in it, and you get more money if you win. So it incentivizes the team to come, and it incentivizes the team to also play well once they get there. Obviously, you have it all over TV, TNT, True TV, all the stations and everything that the games are being played. But it's a really neat, innovative way to kind of reinvigorate. I mean, Feast Week has an entire branding around it. things were dying off a little bit because of, going out and the travel of getting all the way out to Maui or all the way out to Fort Myers or Bahamas or wherever all these events are at. Now this is a new innovative way for us to have excitement. A lot of people are off work this week. A lot of people are out of school this week to come home and kind of invest in college basketball. It's a very innovative thing that Players Era has done.
Yeah, I mean, it helps the schools at the end of the day, help put money in your pocket. At the end of the day, we talk about recruitment and, with these coaches when they're deciding who they want to recruit or how many high school kids or this, that, and the third is what at the end of the day, what is it about? The NIL, how much money do we have? So, I mean, this is really benefits the school. And you have high level games like you said, Rutgers and Tennessee was not good at all. But St. John's, St. John's and Iowa State was really good. Syracuse and U of H was really good. There's still some really good games. There's still going to be some good games going on today as well. So I think like the crowd kind of looked like it sucked. I'll be honest with y'all. Like watching, I was like, it didn't look great. But if you're the school, this is a no brainer to be a part of. These fans, they love to see their schools get really good players, and this money helps them get really good players at the end of the day. So I think you just got to take it for what it is. Like you said, I don't know how in the hell they're going to do 32 teams. They're smarter than us. On that front, we got the other stuff. But it'll be interesting just to see how it all just kind of pans out. But I definitely think it's a good thing for the schools to be a part of, and to help put some money in their pocket so they can help get so they can get good players and they can get better players and upgrade for next year. So Jamie, what is your storyline? What's something I know we talked about it off air, but really want to share what you think.
And kind of one more thing about the Players Era too, Joe. $1 million entry fee or $1 million, buy-in or whatever, that would have gotten you about 3/4 of a center in last year's portal.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But still, $1 million. $1 million is $1 million. Let's be real.
So my things that I'm looking at is obviously the freshmen have been a huge talking point in college basketball this entire season. The freshman class. Looking across this MTE, looking across the Players Era, you have guys, Kyan Anthony at Syracuse, St. Supri at Gonzaga. You got guys like Darius Adams and Tunde Yosefu and Trey McKinney at Michigan and Sebastian Williams-Adams. The list goes on. Today, however, we have Houston versus Tennessee, 6 p.m. Eastern. Very intrigued by that game because of the freshmen that are going to be on the floor. Obviously, both teams, you have Houston, who's a consensus top 3 team. You have Tennessee, who's a top 15 team in the country, both coming in undefeated. So obviously the storylines write themselves with that matchup. However, Tennessee has Nate Ament. He ended up Rivals number 2 overall player in last year's 2025 class. He's coming in and having a very good year, averaging 19 and 8.8, I think, per game so far through the first 6 games of the year. Yesterday, he played against Rutgers, which was actually their first high major game of the year. He had 20 points on 50% shooting. I think 3 or 4 assists as well. 6'10" guy. So the matchup across the way, you have Houston with their 2 freshmen. You have Kingston Flemings, who's kind of taking the college basketball conversation by storm. He was Rivals number 1 overall point guard in last year's 2025 class. You're seeing what he's bringing. And then you have Chris Senack also on that team, another 6'10" guy who's had a lot of flashes. He's leading Houston in rebounding this year. Obviously, Kelvin Sampson is known for rebounding in his teams and all that. Chris Senack, another potential lottery pick coming in, top 10 guy coming out of last year's class. I believe we had him number 6 in the final 2025 rankings. I'm really interested to see how Houston matches up with Nate Ament and how Nate Ament handles the physicality of what Houston's going to bring. They're probably going to run some smaller guys at him to get underneath them. They're probably going to run some bigger guys at him to be physical with them and bully him. How does he respond to the different looks and the physicality that Houston's going to bring defensively? And then on the other side of the matchup, you have Kingston Flemings versus Jacoby Gillespie. Gillespie, who had the huge 30-plus point game yesterday, quite possibly in the conversation for top point guard in the entire SEC this season. He's a senior. Kingston Flemings is coming in. And then Chris Senack, what type of flashes is he going to give as well? I'm very, very interested in all of this conversation that we're having about the freshmen, all of this conversation about NBA draft talk. Chris Senack is in the conversation for lottery. Nate Ament's in the conversation for top 5. Kingston Fleming's getting in the first round possible lottery conversation right now. This is a huge matchup. I'm sure there are tons of NBA. Joe can speak to this more than I can. I'm sure there's tons of NBA personnel that are going to be in the stands watching with their eyes firmly planted on this game. And I'm just fascinated to see what the storylines are coming out of the game when it comes to these three players.
Yeah, when you look at that game and you see someone like Kingston that has really, he had a big time performance against Auburn. Now he's going toe to toe with Gillespie in this matchup. Just he like you said, Jamie, he's getting first round talks. Now people are talking lottery pick, and it seems like his name just kind of gets like higher and higher up in like these mock draft boards. So I'm really interested to see how he performs, especially in this game. It's a high caliber game, like you said. Both teams are undefeated. Nate and men, like we know, there's so much talent with him, with the positional size, just his overall height, his skill. Interesting to see, like, U of H is a physical, tough, hard playing group. And not saying Tennessee is, but that's like Nate and man, when you talk about like some strength, like some game parts of his game that needs to improve, it is playing through contact. It is, having a tighter handle and playing through some stuff and making quicker and sharper decisions, which you're going to have to against U of H. I mean, if you don't, they're going to steal the ball from you. They're going to block your shot. They're going to push you around. So I'm interested to see Nate Man like on the glass, right? Like how well is he going to be able to really compete on the glass, play through the physicality when it gets really rough and U of H like amps up their physical play? How does he respond to that? And Chris Sinak, like we talk about consistency, I think that's the big thing. He had a 12 rebound game, which was really impressive yesterday. 8 points, 12 rebounds. But now just seeing like him continue just to try to put it together. We're looking at someone as well that could be a top 5 draft pick. He has all the ability to. So him going against that Tennessee front line, just continue to be consistent. Love to see those double-digit rebound games out of him. And I think that's the reason that he chose to go to Kelvin Sampson, right? Like he knew that he needed to add that physicality, that toughness, added toughness part of his game. And I think him being with Coach Sampson for the short time period that he has, we've seen an improvement there. But in a game like that, like this tonight, it's going to be huge to see, can he just continue to be consistent and have an emphasis in that department.
For sure. And I think kind of adding to that, I mean, we're looking at what Kingston Fleming is. The reason why we had him at number 1 overall point guard last year's class is because he's, in my opinion, was the best point of attack guard in that class. He was able to not only keep the opposing ball handler out of the paint, but he was also able to consistently touch the paint in his own right, collapsing a defense and making great decisions on the ball. Coming in this year, he's averaging 16 points, 5 assists, shooting 63% from the field and 50% from 3. Obviously, we'll see if those numbers are sustainable. I highly suspect they will not be. But how do they fit in with also Emmanuel Sharp and Milos Uzan, who both started in the national championship game this past year? Obviously, they're all 3 incredibly talented players. But how does Kingston find his role within that and still able to showcase what he has moving forward? And the native mint we have with the high, as high upside as anybody in college basketball right now at 6'10", he's able to dribble, shoot, and pass to an advantage. But just like you mentioned, I agree with you 100%, Ani. Playing through not that he's not physical, but playing through the physicality and still producing on the other side is going to be fascinating to see. And he's going to have to also go through the point. The lasting memory people have right now is that Duke exhibition game. This is going to be the first time a lot of people are putting eyes on him in this college season, and first impressions are everything. So people have heard a lot about what Nate Mint has. People have heard about the 6'10" guy who's able to dribble into an advantage or shoot and pass and just have all this kind of unicorn type stuff to him. But they're going to remember what he does in this Houston game. So this is a huge setting for him as well moving forward. Kind of creating that impression as we move forward toward in this players era.
And if he can do it against Houston, arguably one of the best defenses in the country, then who can he do it against? You know what I mean? And hope like he has added 20 pounds of muscle since he got on campus at Tennessee, but I think he does have the physicality, but he's still obviously putting on that strength, and it'll be very interesting to see how he responds to that Houston defense.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think this is a big game for Nate and Matt. I mean, we're seeing potentially 3 lottery picks in this game. So high level game for me, for all of us. I just think for these guys as well. For me, it's not like a crazy storyline, but like looking at like these sleeper like potential like draftable guys. Like I know Cameron Carr, his from Baylor. I know his name's kind of been popping up some. He's averaging like 23 points, 5 rebounds. He's 6'5" with a 7'1", 7'2" wingspan. He's averaging 2 blocks a game. I think he's had like 2 or 3 games where he's had 3 blocks so far. Just seeing him shoot, he's shooting like 52% from three so far. I don't think that's going to stay. I don't think that's really hard to keep that going. But just seeing how he's been playing, how he's been using his athleticism, using his length. Making jumpers, like just seeing him more confident. We talked about, like I talked about earlier, about guys like changing their roles. Like now you're kind of in a complementary role. We knew he's at Tennessee, just trying to kind of figure it out. And now he's in a bigger role at Baylor, like more of a main role, and seeing the shift in his confidence and his ability. Has been big. So just monitoring guys like him, Milan Momcilovic from Iowa State. He's shooting like 46 from three right now, 6'8", had 23 points, 3 rebounds. I wish his rebounding numbers would get a little higher, but like he's really shooting the basketball at his size. Big game against St. John's. And also for me, like Zuby Ejiofor, like I've had some scouts kind of call me about him a little bit. Probably more like a second round guy. But like, I forgot his first name, but Stewart, that's from Detroit Pistons. Like
Isaiah.
kind of they Isaiah Stewart, like a little bit of like in that archetype, a little bit where he can potentially be in the league. Obviously, Stewart, Isaiah's having a really good NBA career, but like but just kind of looking at guys like them that have a chance to get drafted, that are having really good starts of the year, and just trying to see and just monitor them, see where the consistency, how consistent they can be. Can they keep up the shooting numbers? Can they keep up just the rebounding, the scoring, like as they take an increased role? Those kind of my storylines, and there's others, but those three specifically is like, getting some calls, been hearing about them, been seeing them play better, making shots at a high level, and just want to see how it just continues throughout this week.
And looking at those three, especially there's some unique nature to all three of those. Specifically, looking at Cam Carr, he was such a late bloomer coming out of high school. Really kind of broke onto the scene his final year at Link Academy. His dad played in the NBA. His dad was in the dunk contest in the NBA and all that type of stuff. But he was a late bloomer coming out. You saw his length and projectability. You saw the positional size, the shooting touch, and everything. Then he started, again, we talked about earlier in this thing, coming into his own confidence, coming into his body, coming into his own confidence and what he is as a player. Goes to Tennessee, doesn't work out. Uniquely enough, he transfers mid-year to be a walk-on this past season at Baylor, gets entrusted into the system. Now, all of a sudden, he's one of the most talked about players in college basketball. He's got all the tools. Now it seems that he's coming into it. Now it seems that he's coming into what he is as a player. Joe went to Baylor, spent some time with Scott Drew and the staff and all that type of stuff this summer. The very first player I asked him about was, how's Cameron Carr look? And obviously Joe's like that. They're pretty high on him. They think he's going to be pretty good. He's always had that. He's been that guy that's like, he's got the tools. Now, when is it going to come together? Now, obviously, I'm not going to sit there and stretch by say 24 a game and it's going to look like this. But he's somebody that always had those tools. When it comes together, there's a lot of unique stuff there to look out for. The Milan Momcilovic is a guy who is an absolute bucket, but he does it in a throwback kind of way. He does a lot of his operating off of catch and shoots from three, but in the mid range. His mid-post game, his mid-range game is off the charts with his ability to find space and create space for himself. Kind of almost like the jab step or the turnarounds and side steps and fadeaways. He's got all of that in the bag. Able to, within a phone booth, create opportunities for himself. It's a throwback. It's against every ounce of analytics that's in today's game, that's popular in today's game. But what he does is he's able to get the ball, create an advantage one-on-one situation, and find buckets consistently. I always questioned how it was going to look in college, how it was going to look with Otzelberg and all that type of stuff. And it seems like he's kind of found his way, surrounded by some dogs on the defensive end when it comes to Joshua Jefferson, when it comes to Tamin Lipsey. Give Milan the ball and kind of let him work. He was a late bloomer as well. I think he played with the Phenom U, that's now Team Hero organization up there. And his last year really took a step forward. Again, with the unique nature of how he scores the basketball, it does not check the boxes of the analytics when it comes to threes and at the rim twos. It's strictly give him the ball, let him go to work in the mid post, and his footwork's going to go get him buckets. And it's looking like it's sorting itself out right now in front of our eyes for an Iowa State team that's top 10 in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Joe, you like Jamie said, you were at Baylor. What were your thoughts when you saw Cam Carr?
Yeah, it's interesting because for me at the practice, he didn't like, and I don't even think they forecasted him to be this good this quickly in the season. I didn't expect that either. Like, I thought he had a really good showing in practice. I'm like, I didn't think he was going to be their best player. I was like, my
Right.
biggest takeaway was like, he's still got a lot of upside, but like, he's still got to get a lot stronger and he still has to get a lot better. But for him to be this good this quickly, I even think, like I said, is impressive to them. A lot of people probably looked at this roster and thought maybe Tunde Yesufu would be their best player. And while he is really good, um, or even an Obi Agbem, the transfer from Wyoming, who was a high scoring guy coming out of the portal. But Cam Carr is the face of this Baylor team now. I think he's the seventh leading scorer in all of college basketball right now. Cam Carr couldn't even get off the bench in Tennessee. So incredible to see what he's done and having a massive breakout year for Baylor, and he's such an important piece to what they're doing, and just watching their game last night, just like his athleticism, his length, I was just like, oh my gosh! Like, I know there was plenty of NBA folks in the stands at that game, and I'm sure they walked away super impressed with him.
Oh, 100%. Well, any closing thoughts, guys? We covered a lot. We talked a lot. Jamie, Joe, any closing thoughts as we head into this week?
Thanksgiving, baby. It's time to eat. I need to go ahead and start putting my fast on a little bit to get my stomach ready. We're gonna have a feast, get about 3 different servings of it. My mom got brisket this year, which I'm pretty hype about to go along with the ham. But obviously, Thanksgiving's a sides holiday anyway. The meat's the meat, whatever it is, but it's a sides holiday. So I'm very excited to see my wife, my mom, my brother's girlfriend, and everybody. Kind of what they put on the table.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
I'm
spent some
definitely.
quality time. Just spent some quality time with family, and then just it's feast week. All the good college basketball on. It's fantastic. Hanging out with your family, watching games. Doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, no, it's seeing my fam, like going to Tyler, seeing my fam, seeing my wife's family in Dallas. That's what I'm really kind of excited about. And then we got Thanksgiving Hoop Fest out here, so like Prolifics out here, Southeastern Prep. So there's some really high level high school basketball. It's kind of like I love it, right? Because you get to see these players, they come to the city, so it's easier just to watch. But it's also like, it's Thanksgiving weekend. I kind of want to just chill and watch. I don't want to be in the basketball gym for like 10 plus hours each day. But
Mm.
for the caliber of players and caliber of teams that are going to be there, it's definitely worth it. So I'm just excited about just seeing some family, spend a couple days just to wind down a little bit till I got to get back to it. So that's the episode. The Next Gen Pod. Jamie Shaw.